had some exceptional hits on our last couple of holes. We're waiting for the assays on those, by the way. But from what we see and how we feel about it, I think we're getting very close to what we believe is the root of the system. I don't care if you've got 1 million, 5 million ounces. If it doesn't leach, it's not worth anything. So we stepped out, and Greg did this in early 2020, by the way. And after our successful hits, I think we had 50 or 55 holes into the system, we ran a test right away. And the results were 94 to 99% return in the calendar 120 days. So we ran another test now because we're actually experiencing different material. Not all rock is the same, as you can well imagine. So we ran another test again, and those results just came back, and we got 90 to 97% return in, 90 days, and we still have another 30 days to go. That should increase. I'm not going to promise, but with those rates at 90 to 97%, this system leaches beautifully, even on a 1/4 inch material, which inevitably will save the crushing expense down the road. And a heads up, we are not going to develop this.
As I mentioned, it's classified the 7 biggest in the world. And I think it's a right move to secure these supplies for the North American markets. As honestly, China dominates graphite manufacturing. And, from the geopolitical standpoint, we need all these graphite to decarbonize. And there are many, many plants that are being built in North America that actually require graphite. And there are no many producers. There is only one smaller producers. In Canada, there is a graphite one that's developing deposit, Nouveau Monde, and, Syrah's building some of the facilities down in U.S. But even with all of that, that's still not enough to satisfy North American needs for graphite and the batteries for electric vehicles. Where is graphite to be used in, electronics and energy storage devices and that kind of stuff, let alone the industrial applications. So we need quite a bit of the graphite. And based on, different projections, different groups, we're looking 8 to 12 million tons by 2040. So that's a huge production. It has to come from somewhere.
In the initial phase, because we work through the whole mine cycle, so from the pre-feasibility right up to mine closure. And all of those phases got specific applications to reduce risk. So in the initial phases might be doing the survey with the geologist actually to see who's actually on the mine site, who's actually active there. You've got investors that come in with never seen the mine site in their life. They saw a picture of it, but they don't know the complexities of community and the community that's actually active there. So we get involved very early stage of mine development, taking through the cycles, and then where it starts with the engineering, the front engineering design part is actually to engineer the risk solutions into the mine plan. Where previously the EPC would have been appointed to do a peer engineering sort of view, what the plant should look like, what's the production cycle, and then once the mine is actually commissioned, the mine needs to spend a couple of $1 million again to put a fence down to keep the people that's not supposed to on the mine out of the mine, and that's sort of a cycle you don't want. So early stage involvement is critical for us, and then we engineer the solutions right from the beginning.
It's tougher in terms of the all the various approvals, environmental, whatever, required to be done before you can actually start development. West Australia exploration, I guess West Australia is booming in terms of exploration. There's no doubt there'll be continued exploration for lithium, notwithstanding the fluctuation in prices. I think that one will go on. The government is, the Australian government is looking particularly at helping juniors and the more advanced companies in terms of funding, assisting funding for the development of projects and the exploration for projects. So I think there's going to be a lot of new targets worked on and new mines found. West Australia still is very much underexplored, Rob. From the Kimberley right down to the south, there's new discoveries, and there's no doubt there will be more. I think as we go further east, there's a lot from West Australia into the Central Australia area. I think there's going to be a lot more overburden. It's going to require those remote sensing techniques to assist. It will be costly exploration, but wow, I think there's going to be some good deposits that are found there as well.
And that magnitude makes the project important, not only for Portuguese, from a Portuguese perspective, but also from a European one. And here we come to the Critical Raw Materials Act and the needs that the industry has over the coming years. The European vehicle producing industry is an industry that today employs 16 million people. Most of these people are high-paying jobs, or have high-paying jobs in countries like Germany and France, but also Italy, but also Portugal and Spain. In Portugal and Spain, you produce 20% of the vehicles that are consumed throughout Europe. So it is an important industry also for Portugal and Spain, and not only for Germany and France. But for the European bloc, it is a critical industry, and one in which everyone has understood we need to speed up so as to transform it in time to counter the Chinese pressure and so on. And I think we will need to do that together with Chinese in many aspects, also to be clear. The Critical Raw Materials Act, in many aspects, sets targets that people feel are very ambitious. And one of the targets is associated to the raw materials themselves. And in lithium, in feldspar, and in some of the other minerals that are critical for this transformation, the target that is set is 10% of the European demand when demand is at its top. We have done the maths. We can, only with our project, comply with a third of that objective. So our project alone can deliver a third of the Critical Raw Materials Act objective for lithium. So a target that seemed ambitious given the tradition that Europe has in mining and the fact that it hasn't developed that many mining projects in the last 20 years becomes totally achievable when you understand that only a single project can deliver a third of that.
So when it comes to Zanaga, we have a very compelling investment case, which was first discovered in the 1960s. More than $300 million spent in a feasibility study, of which the majority owner at that point was certainly aiming to be one of the most robust feasibility studies in their portfolio. And what sets us apart then from other competing projects, but also as we get into the market in the next 5 years, other competing operators, which have been around now for generations in Australia, South America, and Africa. So off the bat, when we talk about mining, we have an extremely low strip ratio of only 0.5 to 1. And so leading into the mine engineering, the scheduling of mine production, process production, we don't have to invest in huge mining or mobile equipment to move all the waste. We don't need to invest in large waste dumps and certainly the management of waste dumps. And we have a very reasonable two-stage capital profile of only what we estimate now from this recent very comprehensive cost update of only $4 billion over 10 years, of which the two stages are set apart with a 12 million tonne per year hematite process, of which would be exploiting the hematite resource, which has a depth between 40 and 60 metres across the very long distance explored geometry of the resource, which is currently about 15 kilometres long, and then a two-stage magnetite expansion after year 6, of which the capital for stage 1, which is estimated to be around $2 billion US, is fully paid back to the shareholder.
We only invest in projects that have the potential to uphold high ESG standards and low carbon footprint in regions where we can ensure that is the case. And we only invest in projects with management teams who are committed to those standards. You know, it is a necessary element of the transformation of our industry to feed the energy transition that we do so responsibly and with high standards. Otherwise, we are feeding a climate change mitigation on flimsy foundations and with supply chains that don't embody the values that we are, as an industry and as a world hoping to uphold and build on. So it is absolutely crucial. And increasingly it's demanded by end users, automakers and others who want traceable and clean and responsible supply chains to underpin their energy transition and clean and responsible consumer products. And increasingly it's a differentiator that gives you preferential access to market and preferential access to financing to counter Chinese supply chains, which generally have lower standards or over which the Chinese state imposes less rigorous environmental standards.
Yeah, and I think that, when you look at mines, I mean, clearly you can't take your mine and move it somewhere else. So when you look at the ore bodies that we have in the jurisdictions we have, South Africa, Namibia, Zambia. So in those mines, we think that they very well positioned. They're in favorable mining jurisdictions. Zambia, certainly under the leadership of President Hichilema, has changed the investment dynamic in Zambia, and you've seen the amount of investment that has come behind favorable investment climates into Zambia. South Africa, for all its noise, is still a fantastic mining jurisdiction. And so we think that the location of our mines, South Africa, Namibia, Zambia, we very well situated in good mining jurisdictions. And then where our processing facilities are in India, the Middle East, now in Fujairah, and possibly moving also into Saudi. Actually, what we think is, we've got India with the world's highest growth rate and is going to be like that. And everyone's talking about India being the China of 20 years ago. So we see India growing at 8% per annum, and the demand for metals and minerals is probably growing at twice that. So we're seeing very substantial growth. So it's a great place to be in terms of the demand locally, the customers are all there. So that's certainly the case for India.